How does being inducted into the Hall of Fame make you feel?
It's really a great honor. I mean, it really is. I mean, when I started out racing, you know, that was the furthest thing from my mind. You know, and they had talked to me about when I retired about getting all my information together and submit it. This was in '99, I think, and I never did do it, and I'm glad I didn't do it then, because now it means a whole lot more to me. It really does.
According to your profile, you not only raced your mom's car, but the preacher's too. So how did that come about?
Elaborate on that. Well, I, my mother had a '57 Ford, and I took it to the drag strip a lot. She didn't know it, and then she went down to the local Western Auto store and bought 4 brand new tires to go on that car. And so it wasn't maybe a month later, or it wasn't a short period of time, all the tires, the rubber's about gone on them. So she said something to me about it, and I said, they must have sold you a bad set of tires. It's something down there at the Western Auto. So she went down to the Western Auto store, and the guy that owned it told her what was wrong with her tires, that I'd been taking her car drag racing. And the preacher's car, it actually wasn't the preacher's car. It was he had bought his son a '61 Ford Starliner that had a 390 hypo engine in it that was like 375 horsepower. And but they were younger than me, and they wanted to take it to the drag strip, so we took it to the drag strip, and I drove it at the drag strip. So that's how that story went.
Why Ford?
Well, I was born and raised on them. That's what my family drove, and that's what I've always driven. And Ford's been good to me. I mean, in the racing and just, you know, I got a business, electrical contracting business, and I got all Ford trucks, and I'm a Ford man.
So in 1992, you won 19 of 25 races at Sonoya. What was your secret?
Well, I'd gotten a new Port City race car, and I went and got it right directly from Port City, from the guy that owned it, Harley. He built me a good car, and he told me, if you make sure that it's always all the measurements are correct, and when you get to the track, it'll be right. And I did. I made sure, and it was. I mean, if we had everything right, it was hard to beat. Plus, I had good engines, and at that time, Jody Ridley, the people that I was using before them, I'd had some engine problems, and he told me to go see Jim Hedrick at Race Engine Design. And when I got hooked up with Race Engine Design and that Port City chassis, it was hard to beat.
Did people get tired of you winning everything at Sonoya?
A lot of them did, the drivers did. But you know, they'd have a track open on Thursdays for practice. And even though I won the week before, I was still down there trying to, you know, get my car, find something better. And, you know, I'd go down there a lot of times, and there wouldn't be any of the other drivers down there trying to, you know, get theirs better, where they could outrun me. And so this one particular night, all the drivers, when I say all, there was maybe one or two that didn't, but all the drivers loaded their cars up on the trailer and said they wasn't going to race if I raced. And Charlie Edwards, that owned the track, he came down there to me and he said, you know, I got to put a show on for these fans here tonight. He said, if you'll load your car up, not race, I'll pay you first place. And I said, well, Charlie, that ain't what I want to do. I said, but I understand your situation. he said, well, if you'll just do that, I'll get this straightened out before next week. So we loaded up, and all the crybabies got out there and raced, and he done what he said he'd do. He paid me for first place. So.
What else did they do to keep you from winning?
Well, they first they said if I was fastest qualifier, if I won the heat race, I couldn't start no closer than 8th. I had to start in 8th place, and that didn't do it. So after 2 or 3 weeks of that and me still winning, then they started adding weight. They first said I had to put 25 pounds on the car. Well, that didn't do it. And then it went up to 50 pounds. And that didn't do it either. And then they made a big move, and they said I'd have to add 100 pounds of weight to the car. Well, when I done the 100-pound weight extra to the car, that done it. Because that extra weight, like in a longer race, tires would heat up more and everything. So, but the 100 pounds achieved what they wanted to achieve. And at that time, I just said, well, it's time for me to go somewhere else and race. So that's what I've done.
Who did you look up to in racing?
Well, my hero was David Pearson. See, I grew up in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and I watched David race at the Spartanburg Fairgrounds. Him, Cotton Owens, the Petties, Ned Jarrett on dirt. That's when NASCAR ran on dirt. And he was just always my hero. And then he drove for the Wood Brothers. And then when I got my first race car, which was a 1970 Mustang, I painted that thing just exactly like the Wood Brothers car. In fact, I got the Pure Later stickers and the gold 21s from the Wood Brothers because I'd always been kind of tight with them. And so my car looked just like it. First time I took it to a track in Alabama, they thought David Pearson was there. They covered it up.
Do you feel like you accomplished everything you set out to accomplish when you started racing?
Pretty much so. I mean, there was a few other things. I wanted to win the championship when it was the 50th anniversary of NASCAR, and I was running at Lanier Raceway at that time, it was a NASCAR track, and but I just didn't have that good a year. I mean, I had a good year, but not good enough. I had a few things happen that kept me from, winning the championship. But I still can't complain because I won a lot of races and had a good time and still had all my limbs when I got through.
Looking back, what was your fondest memory?
I guess it would have to be, I went up to see David Pearson up in South Carolina, and he was retired, and I was retired at that time. This was in 2003. And he was building a 37 Ford. They were going to open the fairground racetrack back up. It'd been dormant for 30 years, and they was going to have a Legends race. You had to be over 50, and you had to run old cars, like a flathead. You had to have couldn't have a late model V8 in it. And me and him just got talking and arguing back and forth, and he said, well, just bring your butt up here. I said, well, don't think I won't, but where am I going to find a race car? And he told me about a guy over in Greenville, South Carolina, that had a race car that had been wrecked, and it was a 37 Ford. And so I went over there, and it was just cosmetic. The frame and everything was okay. And I wished I'd have got a picture of it. We had to take a winch and pull it out of the weeds. I brought it back to my shop in right outside of Atlanta, and we completely redid the car. And then we went up there and raced Pearson on. And see, that's another thing. I got to race on a track that I never had raced on, and I got to race my hero. And that's probably, and I got a lot of pictures of he and I together up there at the track, and we got to be friends after I quit racing. I started fooling with street rods and that kind of thing, and he done some of that too, and we got to spend some time around that, and that's where we got, a lot closer. The friendship did,
Where'd you place in the race?
Well, second, he won the race. It was so funny. We went there that Friday before the race because the newspaper wanted to do an article on us, and it's just the two of us. He hadn't got to run his car, and I hadn't got to run mine, and so we were out there. They put a little bit of water on the track so we could run. And I was faster than him, and my crew they was all excited, said, we're going to outrun him. I said, you don't know Pearson like I know him. You go back to that shop, and it'll be a different story tomorrow. And sure enough, it was, yeah. He went back, and I don't know what he done to it, but...
Well, thank you very much, Randy. We do appreciate
all right,
it.
thank you.
And congratulations again.